17mm, nice and ultra wide. That's what this looks like. And if need be, you can zoom all the way into 28. But is 11mm really versatile enough in this day and age? Well, that's one of the questions we're going to answer in this full in-depth review of the new Tamron 17-28 F2.8. We're going to break this thing down as usual while covering the build, the value, performance, and everything in between, as well as give you guys some examples of both photo and video so you can decide if this thing is going to be right for you. Let's do it! So here it is, Tamron's version of Sony's E-mount ultra-wide lens, the 17-28 2.8. And don't confuse it with its brother, the 28-75, which has been wildly popular, having an almost cult-like following, and for good reason. It's a great lens. Here's some basic specs for you to get you going, and if you're new here guys and you like this video, if you find it helpful, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. But enough of that, let's jump into a quick unboxing and look at the build and features of this lens. So let's have a look at what's in the box. Not much. We got some paperwork, we got the lens itself wrapped, and there we go. So not the most exciting unboxing. Tamron hasn't even included a little carrying pouch. I guess they're cutting costs. Let's check out the build. So first impressions of this lens? They're good. It feels good and it's made well. Its tough rubberized zoom and focus rings make this feel like a little armored tank. But it definitely feels like a hobbyist lens. It doesn't have that professional feel. I do like it though. The size and weight really makes this lens shine. At only 420 grams or just under a pound, it's very versatile in what it can do and where you can take it. Notice that it doesn't have any buttons or switches, and it has a nice short throw, letting you go from one end of the zoom range to the other very quickly. The rubberized coating feels very nice and sturdy and just gives you a bit of confidence when it comes to zooming and focusing. The focus ring is electronically coupled to your camera and is smooth and accurate. On the front element you'll find a convenient fluorine coating, and basically that allows water and oil to be repelled, as well as things like dirt and dust and moisture and fingerprints. One thing that I'm not actually happy to see is how the lens actually extends when you zoom. It doesn't extend the overall length of the lens, but it may open this lens up for unnecessary dust and moisture and whatnot to get in. It does have a nice solid metal mount that you'd expect, as well as a beautiful rigid rubber gasket, giving you that extra little bit of confidence when it comes to weather sealing. Overall, Tamron's maintained the quality and build that you'd find in the 28-75 and brought it into this little guy. And because of all these things, I give it 4 stars for build. So when we're talking value, just like its brother, it's incredible. At just $900 American dollars, the value's not hard to see. For a fast, ultra-wide lens, there's really not that much available when it comes to Sony. And in a 2.8 variety, you're going to be paying over 2 times the price for the G Master. But if you're in this price range, you're most likely comparing it to the 16-35 Zeiss, which is an f4, but also has image stabilization and more reach. The 17-28 does offer a lot, and the value is definitely there. So in this case, I give it 4.5 stars. So what about performance? And does the cheaper price reflect it? Well, let's find out. So when it comes to video, I'll come right out with it and say it wasn't perfect. There were times that it did hunt on me, as you can see here, and other times where it just kind of failed to focus. Mind you, this is wide open and a lower light situation, so I am pushing the limits, but it's definitely not the best I've seen. One good thing about the autofocus is that it's basically silent. Following a subject and face tracking on my A7 III with this lens was pretty good and reliable for the most part. But when it comes to stills, I had absolutely no problems. I found this lens to be very responsive and accurate. So when it comes to image quality, this lens is fairly sharp throughout the entire focal range. Here wide open at 2.8, 17mm, it's quite sharp in the middle as you can see, and fairly good up into the corners. And stop down to f4 for even sharper, even better quality. This continues all the way down to f8, which is probably the best in my opinion. f11 is still very sharp throughout, and after about f14 you start to lose some quality. Now zooming all the way into 28, it's quite sharp in the center, and in the corners it is a little bit soft. Stopping down to f4 will improve that slightly, and probably your best at about f8. Also good all the way out to f11, and once again at about f14 or so starts to lose quality. So all in all, this lens is fairly good for the price, for what it is. Sharpness, yeah, not bad. If it's important to you, this lens does suffer from some pretty heavy vignetting and some distortion, which is not uncommon in a lens like this. Here it is without the profile correction turned on, and here's afterwards. So let's address the focal length now. 17 to 28. This is 28, and yes, again, this is 17. It makes an ideal vlogging lens, assuming you have in-body image stabilization in your camera, because this lens is not image stabilized. For me, typically shooting with the 16 to 35, if you notice on the channel, I like to zoom, I like to show the details and whatnot, and at 28 compared to 35, there is a noticeable difference. So you're gonna have to decide if that extra reach is gonna be important to you. And I'll show you the differences, and I do have another video actually comparing this lens to the 16 to 35 if you're interested in that in detail. But of course, this lens is gonna have its give and take, and I think Tamron was really going for the 17 to 28 with no overlap to this 28 to 75. And sometimes a little bit of overlap is nice, but of course, because of the cost of this lens, you gotta cut corners. And all in all, I think they did a pretty good job, but there it is. So next, let's look at photography, and I'm going to show you guys some examples of some of the stills that I've taken with this lens. It is quite capable and it is quite versatile. So here's some examples for you to be the judge, and I hope you like it. So when it comes to bokeh, as you've just seen in some of the examples, it doesn't absolutely blow you away. I would say it's about average. So here's another example looking closely. It is nice. And here's an example compared to the 16 to 35 f4. So when it comes to video, it is a very capable lens and will let you get a lot of interesting shots. Its size and weight makes it perfect for gimbal work and just throwing in your bag and taking wherever. But once again, do keep in mind that it's not image stabilized. Looking at performance as a whole, this lens does perform relatively well in both photo and video. Just don't expect it to blow you away in any one particular aspect. I give it 4 stars. So for the sake of time, let's start to wrap this up. This is a great performing lens with a lot of things going for it, from its size and weight to its build quality and overall performance. And as promised, here's a list of my personal pros and cons for you. No lens is perfect, especially something in this price range. It's always great to see such an amazing warranty offered by Tamron. And looking at it as a whole, I give the Tamron 17-28 4 solid stars. I also like to rate things on a scale from never think about again to consider to definitely buy. So where does this lens sit? Would I recommend it to you? Absolutely. This is definitely a strong consider, especially if you're on a budget and are looking for an ultra-wide lens for a Sony E-mount. This is just a great option for you. Well, there's my thoughts on the 17-28 F2.8 Tamron. I hope this video helped you out, guys. I hope you liked it, and although it's not my personal favorite lens, I think it's gonna fill a gap for a lot of people that are shooting Sony looking for a cheaper ultra-wide lens, and that makes me happy. If you like this video, if it helped you out, please, you know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button. Drop your questions and comments down below. If you're ready, if you're thinking about picking this lens up, I will leave an affiliate link in the description somewhere down there for you. And as always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you in the next one.